You are tuned in to 88.7 FM WRHU Radio Hofstra University. My name is Antonio Schoenhardt, and I am joined in studio today by Dylan Boyle and Will Reichlin. They are the hosts and owners of the Hold My Helmet podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, man. I'm excited to get into it.
Hey, Antonio, thanks for having us. I'm very excited to get into it right now. Thank you. Appreciate it.
At any point in time, anytime, any place, you guys can always come in. It is totally chill with me. We got a lot of stuff on the chopping block today. And so where exactly are we starting today?
The New York Jets, my friend. The New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers. I'm a Jets fan. I've been a Jets fan since 2005. Brooks Bollinger, the starting quarterback. I've been through a lot, Antonio, a lot as a Jets fan. I went to that Thursday night game in New England against the Patriots. Very exciting. You know, that was the best game I've seen from the Jets, from the offense, in like 2, 3, maybe even 4 or 5 years. Then they bounced back this week, rough weather. Bo Nix, Sean Payton, you know, the whole thing with Nathaniel Hackett being there as the head coach of Russell Wilson. Sean Payton kind of going at him last year in the press conference. And then, you know, they beat them last year with Zach Wilson. This year, bad weather, Aaron Rodgers skipping a lot of balls, but they couldn't get the run game going. The defense was good, but they really struggled in this game, Antonio. And the New York Jets, look, when they were good, yes, New England, they looked good the first 2 weeks, but they are a bad team. So what are the Jets? I really don't know. What do you think, Dylan?
Well, my whole take on the Jets is I'm confused about this whole trade with Aaron Rodgers. You guys got Aaron Rodgers to ultimately win a Super Bowl. He's going to be 40 years old, or he is 40 years old now. You know you're going to have him for 2 to 3 years. My whole question is, do you think you have a Super Bowl roster?
You're asking me that? No, I don't.
I'm asking everyone this.
Well, yeah, because, okay, so here's the thing I'm going to say, and I'm saying this as a Giants fan, and there's no hate here because we're not in that much of a we're not in a better boat at all.
I'm in the same boat as you. I'm in the same boat.
We'll get into that in a little bit.
But here's the thing with the Jets, and what specifically had me very confused too is with the game against Broncos. Listen, I understand conditions were not the best, right? Mm-hmm. Rainy day, really, really horrible day. But you got Aaron Rodgers throwing 225 yards, and you're still losing the game to a Bo Nix, who only capped out at 63 if we're including both passing and rushing.
The funniest part about that, Antonio, I think he had 25 completions for like 67 yards. It's like almost a record for like the lowest yards per completion in a game in history. But we have to remember, Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he's thrown for 300 yards in like 25 games. It's been a while since Aaron Rodgers has thrown for 300 yards. Yes, he looked good against New England. New England looked good against New England. They look good. New England looked good against Cincinnati and Seattle. They look good. They beat Cincinnati. They almost beat Seattle. It came down to the last minutes. But they are a bad team. And yeah, New York worked them. It was a great game to go to. But they bounced back. The Broncos come in and they just at home against Denver, rookie quarterback. It was frustrating.
A lot of people were saying this too. I mean, I said this from the beginning. It's like, hey, you blew out New England. Good for you. Enjoy the win. But then again, check yourselves, because this is New England. They beat good teams, but at the end of the day, they're a terrible team. They're like maybe like the 29th or 30th team.
It's funny though, because when they beat Cincinnati and they almost beat Seattle, everyone was saying, "Oh, New England's feisty." All of a sudden, the Jets beat them. They suck. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, pick one. But the Jets got embarrassed. I'm not going to lie. Aaron Rodgers was skipping balls. He was looking at his hand going, what's going on with you? I get it. It was not a good game. I have a friend, Charlie. I have another podcast with him. He was all hyped up after the New England win, saying, we're going to beat Denver. And I was saying, too, and on our podcast, you both said Denver is going to lose to the Jets in that game. That's an easy
I
game.
said it was going to be a tough game.
Me too. And you saw why.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw this coming, and I'm like, don't get too excited now. But what do we make of the Jets now? I mean, they had some good games. They had some really bad games. Are they still a Super Bowl contender?
Well, I've always thought going through the season, maybe last season I was saying, okay, Super Bowl, that might be possible. But after the Achilles injury, watching the defense suck against the run game last season, watching that offense sputter with Zach Wilson, I came into this season, Aaron Rodgers 40 off an Achilles injury. Let's get to the playoffs. Let's win a playoff game maybe. And I'm still at that point. Let's win a playoff game. AFC Championship is a far stretch. Super Bowl? No. We're not talking Super Bowl right now.
But getting back to my point I was saying before, what was the point of getting an old quarterback like this, if you're not going to win a Super Bowl,
To win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because the idea is to win the Super Bowl. Here's another question I'm going to propose here. Is this, especially after that Broncos game, is this more of an offensive problem or a defensive problem? I think the answer is pretty simple here because I think you guys have a stacked defense. I think the Jets have a stacked defense. But if the offensive output can't match a really failing Broncos squad right now at MetLife, you got the people there, you got your squad there, you got your fans there. It got to sound the alarms a little bit. And I'm not going to be the one to hate on Rodgers and say, this guy's washed and stuff. Because realistically, I mean, he's going out there, he's slinging the ball. He had, I think it was 25 for 42 on the day.
He was running for his life, Antonio.
And that's the other thing, too. O-line there. I mean, if you're not buying him time, and he's kind of been used to, at least when he's been on his better squads, he's been used to being, sitting in the pocket. I mean, you think of some of the craziest Rodgers plays. It's his Hail Marys. How do you get that off? You can sit back there for 5, 6, 7 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he necessarily has that on the Jets.
I will say the first couple weeks, week 1, week 2, even week 3, the line was solid. Last week, not so much. Was that because of the turf, the bad weather, slipping, everyone slipping around? I don't know. He was running for his life, though, Antonio. I can't deny that. He was, and I will say, Rodgers was very involved. Like, he was into this game. You've seen a lot of Rodgers games in Green Bay where he checks out. He didn't check out of that game, Antonio Dillon. He did not check out.
No, he did. He was
running for his life. He was into that game. Now, how much of this has to do with there was a lot of false starts on the cadence and everything? Yeah. You heard Salah's comments after the game saying maybe we're not good enough for the cadence. It got a little bit misconstrued, but Rodgers definitely took it the wrong way.
I think so because it's also I can't blame him for it because
no, me either.
Every media outlet out there was saying it's on the quarterback. Basically, they were wording it his quote. Blaming Rodgers.
Well,
so in verbatim, if you listen to the press conference and what he said, he's not blaming Rodgers.
He
was just saying, it's like a team problem.
Right.
But but how did they strip the quote?
Yeah, that's New York. That's New York media fear, and you got to expect that. And Rodgers has to know you're coming into New York. You have to mute that all out and just play ball.
Well, the thing is, Aaron Rodgers, what he's been most effective at, one of the things he's been most effective at, is creating those offsides and throwing for free plays for touchdowns. He did it in week 1 against the Niners.
I remember that.
That's one of Aaron Rodgers' vintage plays. That's what he does best. And they didn't have a problem from week 1, 2, and 3. Now it's in week 4. It's an issue. I don't know. It's kind of tit for tat here because Salah's going he wasn't really going at Rodgers, but he kind of was deflecting. Then Rodgers was deflecting.
They were going at each other.
It was I feel like it was a game, a one-time situation where it was kind of an anomaly. That's what I feel.
And then we have Garrett Wilson also blaming the offense and the play calling.
Well, I've been saying for weeks he's a very, very high-end receiver, but is he elite? Is he elite?
Not with this
offense. Is he
offense.
top 10?
But I think this is a great point because with great wide receivers, they usually get double covered. You usually have your best guy on him, but if you're really that great, you should be able to make up for it and make those great catches.
The thing I'll say, too, it seems like the only receiver on that receiving core that Rodgers really has, chemistry with is Lazard.
Alan Lazard.
Of course, he played with at Green Bay.
Alan Lazard. And it's actually very funny because Garrett Wilson, people are saying with an elite, even a top half quarterback, top 16 quarterback like Rodgers. He hasn't been great this season, but has he been a top half quarterback? Yes. People thought that he was going to, because, he's been Garrett Wilson the last 2 seasons, 1,100 yards. People thought, is he going to get 1,400 yards? Is he going to get double-digit touchdowns? And that just hasn't happened. He hasn't even top 60 yards in the game. Yes, Aaron Rodgers, you can see it on the field. He trusts Alan Lazard more. Is that because they played together more? Probably.
Absolutely.
Probably. Yes. Does Garrett Wilson get covered? Double covered. A lot of the times, yes. But Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, they beat double coverage, Dylan. They beat double coverage, Antonio. They beat double coverage. Eventually, Garrett Wilson has to beat these double coverages and make plays.
And they make up for bad throws.
Yeah. And they make plays down the field with that double coverage. Look, I'm not saying that for this guy to get 200 yards while he's getting double covered all the time. You see some of these other receivers step up in New England. You saw Conklin step up. Lazard the last couple of weeks has stepped up. But
Mike
eventually
Williams.
your number one receiver has to be your number one receiver. So when's it going to happen?
Well, that also brings up a great point because there's a new receiver on the market now, Devontae Adams.
Well, I see all the posts saying, one of the top teams on his shopping list. He's got Jets right there,
Jets with Chiefs, yeah.
and the Jets and Chiefs. And here's the thing I'm going to say. That's an elite level receiver right there. But then how do you work the receiver rotation? or who do you give away? Because
they're not going to want to get rid of Lazard. That's his prime target. Mike Williams, you just traded for him. You bring up a great point, too.
If you're trading away, in most cases, I mean, Devontae Adams is 31 years old. So in most cases, someone that's 30-something years old, you probably give away a few second-rounders. But it's also Devontae Adams in the question right now. This is not a random receiver out here. This is a guy who's shown it year after year that he is a top 10 receiver.
And you have to remember, though, Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, they're playing for their job. They're coaching for their jobs right now. So it's not like, okay, let's save a couple draft picks for 2-3 years down the line. You might not be on the team, Joe Douglas, next year. So do whatever. As a Jets fan, watching Garrett Wilson be a really good receiver but not take that next step, do whatever it takes. That's what I'm saying. You got to do whatever it takes to get Devontae Adams. You need him. That's what I think.
I think you need to upgrade that line before you start worrying about wide receivers. And yes, we're a little too late. We're a little too late. The season started. You can't just throw in a lineman in there and expect it to work. You got to work him. You got to get him used to it. And I think that's your main problem here. I don't think it goes down to wide receiver. I think it's...
Out of all the New York Jets problems, I really don't think offensive line is the main problem. No. They have one bad game out of 4. They have no weapons. That's what... You look at them down the field, Rodgers is looking, no one gets open. No one's getting open. That's the problem.
I think it might be, and this is a time where we got to also, put in the coaching here. It might just be play calling. It might just be route running. Like, it's got to be something on the fundamental side.
It's all play calling. You look at 2 weeks ago against Tennessee, all the delay of games, because Rodgers was all bowling, and they were like sitting at the line of scrimmage changing the play at the last second because he doesn't trust what Hackett calls. He does not trust Hackett. And meanwhile, they love each other. I don't understand that relationship.
That's the biggest problem. I think it's Rodgers sitting back there saying, hey, I got all this experience. I know how to run an offense. And he's not... Like, half of his plays, he's audibling. He's changing the play at the line. He's not doing as the offensive coordinator is saying. And I think that's your main problem here.
It's definitely out of like 3 to 5 main problems, 2 or 1. Yes, it's like one of the biggest problems on this team.
So it seems we got the problem on the Jets side figured out, where it seems to be more of a fundamental issue than an actual star power issue. And I do think it's true. And this is coming from a Giants fan, but also coming from a Giants fan, there's another elephant in the room that needs to be discussed right now. Yeah. And that's Danny Dimes, who's been looking like Danny Pennies.
Yes, Danny Dimes is out the window. We're not calling him Danny Dimes anymore.
Well, I will say, he's got traits you want in an NFL quarterback. Yeah. He's got a big arm. It's funny because he underthrows a lot of balls, but he actually surprisingly has a big arm. He's 6'5". He can move. He's got what you want in an NFL quarterback. Golden Tate said it best a few years ago. He was in an interview, and Golden Tate was on the Giants for a few years. He said, Daniel Jones in practice makes all the throws. His biggest problem, he overthinks everything. Paralysis by analysis. Daniel Jones, and you can tell, he's a Duke guy, very smart. He just overthinks it. I think it's just a thing of he has the talent, and he just can't produce in the field because he's just like a guy. You see him in the pocket, kind of overthinking it. That's Daniel Jones right there.
And at this very point, this season has been nothing but Daniel Jones failing his offense. You see, these last 2 weeks, this offensive line has stepped up to the max. He's spending 6-7 seconds in the pocket. Yeah. His line's holding up. It's all down to him at this point. He's underthrowing balls. Last week, we had a Dallas game that we absolutely should have won. Held them to 20 points. Holding Dallas to 20 points, that's a big step. And the fact that you're underthrowing 3 to 4 balls that should have been touchdowns, that all comes down to you.
Yeah.
See, the Neighbors one where he beat the guy off the line, he was wide open. The safety was kind of crashing down. You don't want when someone's wide open, you want to hit him. It doesn't matter if you overthrow or underthrow. You want to just get it to the guy. The Slayton one on the offsides, you got to overthrow that because why are you underthrowing it there? Either overthrow for out of bounds or throw for a touchdown. Don't underthrow.
Let your receivers catch up to it.
Lead your receiver into the ball itself. And the other thing, too, that I want to bring up, too, is that we're also talking about Daniel Jones, who actually, when he went out there against the Browns, he bowled really great. But the question is, like, how, and I don't understand, because certain players can find a level of consistency and just stay at it. Daniel Jones just can't. He can't. He doesn't find the consistency.
It's like a mountain, up and down, up and down.
And it's like, as a New York fan, as a Giants fan, I should say, it gets a little annoying sometimes.
It's like right when you think, it's like, okay, I'm over him. I'm ready to think about the next quarterback we're drafting.
Legacy game.
Yeah, exactly. He goes out there and bowls out. It's like, what are we doing here?
And then the cycle restarts.
It's like It's like purgatory. You don't know what to do. It's
I've been saying this probably since we started our podcast, Dylan, and I'll say it again. Daniel Jones is going to be in the league for a long time, probably as a backup, because what does he do? He's quiet, he's accurate, he turns the ball over sometimes, but like when Brian Dable has him like under a leash, he stops. He doesn't turn the ball over as much. He's a prime for a 10-year backup career,
and he doesn't seem like a leader either. He doesn't rally the troops.
I have to agree with that because he's just a very quiet guy, and I just feel like he's the mold of like a 10-year backup where he could put together a few good games, but 17 games he's gonna get exposed. He's gonna get exposed. But this kind of all goes into what I've been saying about Garrett Wilson. Malik Neighbors with Daniel Jones, who we've all been kind of hating on for the last couple of minutes. Not really hating on, but just kind of exposing his flaws here. Malik Neighbors is still going off. Garrett Wilson is a top half quarterback in the league, and he's not putting up Malik Neighbors' numbers. Malik Neighbors is already possibly a top 10 receiver in the league, and he's already in that fringe.
And what I was saying before is a perfect example. Great receivers make up for bad throws. That throw against Cleveland, the picture one where he just grabbed it right off
Boston.
That should have been an interception. Let's be real. He should have thrown that higher. He went up there and he made up for his mistakes.
He's a star. Stars make plays when they have to.
Is he a generational wide receiver? It really seems like it here.
Yes, he is.
With his speed, his route running, his catching ability, it's just...
And you see, that's the other thing, too, that I want to bring up, because you just mentioned route running. Something that I do think the Giants' offense incorporates a little bit better than the Jets' offense currently right now is not being as predictable. Because even as someone, I've also been used to so many years of, third and 8 check down pass to Saquon, because what else would the Giants throw, right? So we've had that for a minute. And now, even as I'm trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to try to run here? We got so much movement on the field itself, you don't know where the ball's going, right? And something that's also really interesting is that on most plays, especially on, misses when Jones just, hits a sack in the road and just incompletion, right? There's always another target that is open that he just doesn't read
see at all.
And it's almost all the time. I'd say if out of 100%, it's got to be at least 80% of the time. Yeah. He just sees one target, goes for it. If he actually scanned the field, multiple receivers are getting open on almost every play during the game.
And when you're a 5-year vet, that's like a very basic thing to do as a quarterback, make your reads. And he's been a one-read quarterback, absolutely. But the Giants, Malik Neighbors, he's really kind of made up for that. Like he's made Daniel Jones look a little decent this year, and I really do think Daniel Jones, as a whole, maybe it's more Brian Dable, but that's a whole other point. Brian Dable has success at Alabama with Tua and Jalen Hurts, has success in Buffalo with Josh Allen. The people trying to run Brian Dable out of town, I really don't understand. I don't understand.
I don't get that either.
As Giants fans, do you want Brian Dable out of town?
Absolutely not.
No.
We came in. We brought in Danny DeVito, and he made a story out of him. He won like 2 to 3 games straight in a row with this kind of mediocre quarterback. They kind of made him look a lot better than he was. But, he won head coach of the year for a reason. It doesn't come down to Brian Dable. They're having great play calling. It just comes down to Danny Dimes, and he's just not getting it done this year.
He's had some decent games. Yes, Brian Dable, he should not be in the hot seat. He's a very effective offensive head coach. And you kind of see that. Like you said, misdirections, misconceptions, motions. That's all part of the Brian Dable offense. The Jets, you don't really see that as much. Aaron Rodgers doesn't like motions, doesn't like pre-snap misconceptions. And that's why you see the Giants offense slightly more effective. And also, I will say, Malik Neighbors is your 1, Wan'Dale Robinson is your 2. That's a pretty decent 1-2 combination.
I
like Wan'Dale Robinson.
Wan'Dale's a great.
He's a pretty decent number 2 if he stays healthy. You have a pretty decent 1-2 for the future.
He had a fantastic game. In particular, he had a fantastic game right behind Neighbors in the Browns match.
He had a couple drops in Dallas. He had a couple drops, but I'm not worried about drops. Everyone has drops. It happens.
Listen, there's drops, and then there's like an Evan Ingram
level
of
which is kind of funny.
And then as soon as he went to Jacksonville, he was looking
catching
like a star.
everything.
Yeah, that got me angry. But I feel like a team like this, the way that they're playing now, we have our offensive line together. They're starting to look good. We have 2-star wide receivers. Our defensive line is elite. Dexter Lawrence, Burns is finally coming on, and Kayvon Thibodeau. Those are 3 stars right there. I mean, obviously we need to upgrade our secondary, but this looks like a team where it's kind of ready to go.
That's the thing. The secondary is a problem.
The secondary is a problem.
The secondary is a problem.
A lot of these good teams or good defensive, it's either they have a really good secondary or that line just completely devours them.
Well, I will say this. Hopefully Deonte Banks makes something of himself, because how many teams have two good corners? It's very rare to have two very good corners. So if you get one, you'll be kind of set. Now, can Deonte Banks make that next step? We're still kind of. He's had some good games, had some bad games. Minnesota, not so much. Browns was a little bit better, but Amari Cooper kind of torched you guys at the end. So you're waiting to see that growth from Deonte Banks. It's huge for him to take that next step.
Yeah, it's also, you got to work yourself into the system. You got to get used to the way things happen. You got to get used to just being around the squad, and most importantly, the team that you have around you. Like if you're a player that's going out there and you're thinking, I got to make this play every single time, that's a bad mentality to have, because there's 11 people on that football field on both sides.
If you make a mistake, you expect someone's
got to be there to help you. You know what I mean?
Let's also remember that there's a new defensive coordinator there too.
Yeah,
so that also takes some time to adjust.
That's what I'm saying. You got to fall into the system and work stuff out.
Right.
And usually, with newer level players, could take a while. But to move us into the next topic here, kind of a vet at this point, right? So of course I'm talking about Travis Kelce, and
beyond vet.
A lot of ups and downs. A lot of people are saying some stuff. Some people on one side think that he's just in a slump. Some people on the other side are saying this is his farewell year. What do we think?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, because you're probably going to be more negative than me.
Oh yeah.
I don't think he retires this year, but he's clearly taking a step back. He's clearly slower. Is he saving himself for the playoffs? Maybe. Did he go off in the playoffs last year? Yes, he did. He looked like vintage Travis Kelce in the playoffs last year. Mm-hmm. But clearly he's lost a little bit of a step. You saw in that Chargers game, though, they try to get him more involved early. Maybe that's what you need. Get him revved up early, give him some motivation. Clearly he's not the best tight end in the league anymore. It's obvious. Is he top 5? Probably still top 5 tight end. He's not number 1, though.
I mean, the way that the tight ends have been playing this year, there's really no good tight ends.
Right, so honestly. He's clearly probably still top 5.
He is, but we really do have to. Yes, he has been stepping down from what he used to be. I completely agree. He's about to be 35 years old. 35 years old. Quarterbacks being 35 years old, no problem.
But the skill position.
Tight end blocking, 250 to 300-pound guys. I give him a little break there. I think there's just too much going on with Travis Kelce. There's just too much of a spotlight on him. I personally don't think that's the whole reason why this is going on. I feel like there's just too much of a spotlight on him. But honestly, I think he overstayed his welcome. I mean, last year, that should have been his year. That's a great way to go out.
I think he might be just sticking around to try for the 3-peat. That's the only thing that would make sense.
Why wouldn't you?
Do you guys feel like he's pressing a little bit? A lot of pressure. Taylor Swift, people saying he's washed. He might be pressing a little bit.
Yeah, and the thing too with that, and I like what you said, Dylan, where the lights might be a little too bright. It could be that, because he, of course, superstar. He was a superstar athlete. Yeah, but sure. It's very safe to say that the second that entire relationship, hit media, his popularity increased 100-fold. He skyrocketed.
Yes, absolutely.
So it could be that. Could also be the fact that maybe now he's got more people wanting more from him for some reason. You know what I mean? And the other thing too is, I also, going back to what you're saying, where you're at a position where you're blocking people, 250 to 300-pound guys. He's also been doing it for way longer of seasons than other people. If you're done before the playoffs, that's an extended break. Dude has been in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl picture for the last 5-6 years
since Alex Smith was the quarterback.
Literally, he has literally been playing a full September, November, December, and January, February.
He's been 2013.
He's been playing a full 5 months of football for almost a decade. It catches up to you, man.
It does. I completely agree with that. And, another factor that we're missing out on here is you have more stars that are coming on. I mean, Rashee Rice, obviously he's out with the injury, won't be back for the rest of the year. But you have him starting to come on and look like a really good receiver. You have Worthy, that's one of the fastest. He ran the fastest 40 in history.
Definitely the fastest ever.
He's the fastest receiver. So when you think of him, I kind of think of a Tyreek Hill, and that was kind of his go-to. And I think that's what Worthy is going to start to be. But now with with Rice being out for the rest of the year, I feel like we're going to see more production from him, and this is all just going to go to bed.
Yeah.
And especially without having that lethal run game with Isaiah Pacheco, because, again, he's going to be out for a while, couple games now. So I feel like he's going to start getting more targets. But I think you had a great point. You get him started early, and you kind of saw it 2 games ago. He wasn't catching the ball. You just saw him with his head down, looking furious, looking upset. And I feel like you really just got to start feeding him early and get his momentum going, you know?
At the end of the day, we're all human, and humans need confidence. So you saw, like, even with Daniel Jones in that Browns game, for example, when a quarterback gets a little bit of confidence, how effective they could be. Same with a tight end. You get him some catches early, a little bit a screen, a little wheel route on the sideline, like that nice
get
catch.
him going.
Get him going. Confidence is key. You give someone confidence, it's, you could. The ceiling's honestly unlimited. But yes, he has fallen off. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he's slowing down, but I don't know. It's a part of it could be the spotlight issue, but then of course the other thing with that too is like he's kind of always been in the spotlight. Like there hasn't really been a season that I can remember in the last at least 6-7 years where he hasn't been the star player. For at least until this season, the last 5 seasons prior to that, he's been in my top 3 picks every year for fantasy. Because that's just how good of a player is. And people are like, you're taking a tight end that early. I'm like, dude, it's Travis Kelce. Like, man's guaranteed 20 points a game fantasy-wise.
It's funny. Before Taylor Swift, too, he used to be on this dating show. I don't know if you guys remember this, but he was on a dating show.
Yeah,
so he was
a star.
Know that. He was a star before this. So he's not new to the spotlight, guys. This is not a new thing for Travis Kelce.
His body's wearing down.
Yes.
And it's totally acceptable. And the other thing, too, is I think what might happen with him, or what should have happened with him, is that he should have gotten to a point where he pulled the Gronk, right? And remember, Gronk, he left. He got out of the Patriots, left for an entire year. Tom moved to the Bucks. Gronk was like, you know what? I rested up enough. My body can do one more season for a Super Bowl.
And he looked lighter, too.
Yeah, and so he was able to do it. Kelce, like I said, he's probably been conditioning, because also in the offseason, ask any football player you know at any level, even the high school level, the offseason can be almost as strenuous as the actual season with the amount of weightlifting,
in 2024,
dieting.
Yep.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's crazy.
They don't get any break. Yeah.
No break whatsoever. If there's a sport that I think gets the least amount of break, at least on a year-long scale, I'd say football.
Because if you come into training camp out of shape, you might get cut, guys. So it's a big deal.
A lot to worry about.
And not even cut. If you're someone like Kelce, right, you might get hit with a crazy fine from your own team. Right, because you sign a contract to meet certain needs. If you're not meeting the needs of the team, they're gonna fine you.
You're 35, out of your prime, and now you come into camp out of shape.
No way.
Unacceptable, right?
Yeah, that is.
But I still will say this. Regardless of his performance for this season, I still do think that he's irreplaceable on that squad. And the reason why I say that is because even if he's going to, not have great performances, it just feels like from a chemistry perspective, if there's ever a pickle that, Mahomes gets himself into, first person he's looking at, Kelce. I know Kelce's got to be at least willing to take some contact, right?
I was going to say that. That's his go-to. Like, he might not get much playing time or much action, but like when in doubt, just throw to Kelce.
Yeah,
that's your check down. Like even like when he's sitting in the pocket for like 7-8 seconds, oh my god, I'm just gonna throw it to Kelce. He always just finds his way to like get around people and just be open.
And listen, especially off of a recency bias, I guess, a really good QB tight end connection is something that you have to seek after. I mean, you bring it up. I got to say, I hate the Patriots, but that Brady Gronk connection might be the craziest thing that we're going to see maybe in the history of the game. Maybe, who knows? Maybe the Mahomes Kelce connection might get put up there as well. But the Brady Gronk connection is nuts.
Yeah,
right. It's like no matter what, like you were saying, if he's got to stay in the pocket, roll out of the pocket, he just knows if I look at Kelce or in Brady's, from Brady's POV, if I look at Gronk, dude's open. I'm throwing him the ball, he's grabbing it.
Yeah,
the big difference here, Gronk, great, one of the best tight end blockers of all time, and he knew how to get yards after the catch in a different way than Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce in his prime is more finesse. Gronk would bulldoze people.
Yes,
and he could do that when he was older. Kelce has never been a great blocker. So you actually, maybe that's why he's lasted a little longer into his career, because 35 for a tight end is really old. Maybe that's why, because he's not really a blocking type. So that's a little more finesse in his prime. That's probably why Kelce is lasting this long. Honestly, this is old for a tight end. He should be retired like 3 years ago.
The other thing about Gronk too is that dude was a lunatic, man.
Absolutely.
Kelce he's way more calm and collected. Gronk was crazy. Gronk was actually a crazy player, and I think that also for the position of tight end specifically, that also helped him a lot more. And also in the size matchup and the build matchup, Gronk also kind of has just biology on his side on that point. But I don't know. I think that it's a very long season, and I do honestly think that, especially if the Chiefs make that run into the playoffs, I think a whole switch will change in Kelce. It's just impossible.
We could be eating our words in like a few months.
Yeah.
We really could be.
we honestly might.
Like I said, they're going to be missing Rice, so is that going to be...
That might be the ticking point, Dylan.
Might be.
Good point.
And, while we see what's going to happen with Kelce and his fate still up in the air, someone whose fate might be sealed as of right now, Tua Tagovailoa. As we know, suffered yet another concussion. He's out for at least, I think it's a month at this point, might be even longer. Here's what I'll say on this. There have been certain players in the NFL, and I understand that this can't be the most educational thing to say, I want to say in a way, because until very recently they really didn't highlight concussions as much as they do now with concussion protocol and stuff. But there are certain players in the NFL that have been playing 5, 6, 7+ seasons and have only had like one concussion, if at that. Tua's got 3 in 4 years?
And that's a great point though, because we go back to a couple of years ago when he gained weight a couple seasons ago. What was it, 2 seasons ago? Last season, actually. He gained weight. Why was that? So when people would tackle him, he wouldn't get thrown around like a rag doll. This year, he comes in, he's like, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to be more nimble. I'm going to be more agile. I'm going to be able to run out of the pocket. You see now when he gets tackled again, when he was getting tackled again, before the devastating injury, God bless, he was getting thrown around like a rag doll because he lost weight. It's a little confusing because you gained weight so you wouldn't take these hard hits. Then you lost weight again, and I don't understand. Tua has this weird trait of when he gets tackled, getting tossed. Like regular tackle, Damar Hamlin, ironic as it was, Damar Hamlin's causing this injury. Coming back from football, great story. Anyway, that's another topic for another day. Damar Hamlin tackling him, and a regular tackle, and this guy looked like he got launched.
Yeah.
Launched.
Absolutely.
He has this weird trait of every time he takes a regular tackle, to look like he's having projectile getting thrown from a cannon. It's very weird.
I agree with that, and it's just unfortunate with a situation like this. He's still very young, still has a lot of football to play, but he's coming to a point where it's going to be a life-threatening matter where if he keeps on playing, he could not know who he is in a couple of years from now. I mean, we've seen multiple situations where football players dying at such a young age, 40 to 50, they're just dying, dropping dead. It happens more than, the news might not put it out there, but it happens a lot. And even, situations like Antonio Brown, he was one of the greatest wide receivers, and then he just went crazy.
He just went off his rocker, yeah.
And it's ironic because he hosts a show called CTE and
CTE ESPN.
And as funny as it is, he brings it up all the time how much it changes his life, and he really gets serious about it, how much it affects him. And is there something we can do about this? Because it's coming to a point where it's causing people to lose their lifespan.
Yeah.
Your point of view, though, that you're a football player. You play football your entire life. This is what you're trying to make the Hall of Fame. You're trying to win a Super Bowl. You think he's going to back out now? If that's me, I wouldn't back out. I would keep going. Girlfriend, family, father, son, telling me no matter what, I wouldn't care. I would not care what they're saying.
Definitely got doctors in his ear, though, telling him, dude, hang up the boots. Because, like I said, man, there's people who go sometimes their entire career without even getting a concussion, right? They might screw up an ACL or an MCL, but no concussions.
Luck of the draw.
Yeah, this guy. And the other thing, going back to what you were saying, Will, where he looks like he's getting launched, he doesn't know how to take a tackle. He actually doesn't. He doesn't have a clue of how to take a tackle.
No.
And this was something that was way back even when he was on Bama as a backup QB. Because didn't he get concussed at Bama too?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. This has been a long-standing issue. And when it came to the Damar Hamlin hit, I think what messed him up the most was the fact that he tucked his head forward and down.
That was the stupidest thing I've ever
done. Because he did that,
Yeah.
and then when he fell backwards, did that projectile motion that always happens to him.
All he had to do was slide.
He
or
had a
dive.
slide,
Just
but
dive.
let-
In a game that you're getting your butts kicked, you're not going to win that game. Get down. What are you doing?
Not to
what
mention,
are you doing?
he was past the first down. So what more yards do you need? At that point, I mean, like
I like the toughness,
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
I appreciate that, but
I do. Coming into the league, Caleb Williams, they had this drill where they would put him on a slip and slide just so he can get used to sliding because they obviously don't want him to end up like Tua. Like, why aren't they running these drills with Tua? Why aren't they telling him, you need to slide? You got to stop running.
I'm sure they've done all that, but when you're in the game with your instincts, you want to get that first down. You want to get the extra yard. I get the bravado and
Second nature takes over.
Yes, the alpha. I get the alpha taking over too. It's just being like, screw that. I'm a man. I'm gonna try to run through that man right there. Not a good idea. Not a good idea.
When it comes to the safety side of issues, because you're like, what happens now? How do we prevent this type of stuff? I think there's two answers here. Number one, something that Tyler Lockett's been doing for many years now. He doesn't
down.
take contact.
Get down.
If he knows he's open field and he's
I
got
love
nowhere
that.
to go, down.
Amon St. Brown
You know,
learned that too.
Yeah, like and Amon St. Brown is doing the same thing. Why? Because why are you going to take the chance, get cracked, and then you're out for five weeks?
You want to know why? Longevity is the name of the game. Get
Yeah.
that second contract, maybe even get a third contract. Tua got that second, though, so maybe he was a little more reckless because he knew I have this guaranteed money now. Tua's a good guy, so I know he wants to play, so it's not about the money to him. I'm sure
it's not. And it's just an unfortunate situation. But like if you're in the family's point of view, it's like you want this guy to be safe.
if I'm Tua, I'm playing. I don't care.
I'll tell you this, though. There's no way he gets on that field again without a guardian cap. There's no way they're going to let him do that.
No.
There's actually no way.
No.
And that's another question that I have here. Because we see people like Jabril Peppers,
Wear
like,
it.
he's actually wearing guardian cap. Do you think the NFL might move slower and slower and slowly as the years progress towards mandating the guardian caps?
Is there evidence though supporting that it protects the players? See, I don't see that evidence yet. I see that. It definitely helps. You're putting cushion on your helmet. Obviously, it helps, but I heard something more about the reaction of getting hit with the helmet
Yeah.
and your head bouncing off the helmet that causes the concussion itself. And does that prevent that? I don't know. I really don't.
What it helps prevent, because I know this from a sports journalism class we're in, what it does help prevent is helmet-to-helmet contact. What it can't help prevent is if you get launched backwards and you smack the back of your head on the turf, and if it's hard turf, regardless of what you're wearing at that point, like if it's really that hard of an impact, you're kind of cooked.
As ironic as it is, that's always Tua's injury
Yeah.
though, hitting
Yeah.
the back of the pavement, not the back of the pavement, but the back of the turf.
I mean,
with his head.
let's be real. Some of these turfs are like, especially even like MetLife. I want to throw MetLife out there. It's literally concrete.
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
some of these fields are literally concrete.
I was listening to it on the radio on the way here about how bad MetLife's turf is. It's a fact. It's like
The amount of injuries that's happened on that field. is
we're almost at
ridiculous.
double digits now.
It is.
And we're not only talking about contact injuries, we're talking about the non-contact injuries. If someone is, like
those are the
moving-
worst.
If someone's moving laterally quickly and they're ripping an ACL or something, that's an alarm should go off. I'd rather have a grass field, and yeah, I got players on my team, who are slipping every now and then. But guess what? You don't on a grass field. You don't see people slip and tear something.
It's funny. We're on a flag football team, and we much prefer grass. We've been playing some not so good grass lately.
and
but
you get stuck. It's like you lose a step.
sometimes turf. When you play, there's a lot of turf fields in Long Island. Sometimes they're very inconsistent. You have some where the bedding's very shallow. You have some where the bedding's very deep. And when it's very deep, your ankle digs into that turf, and then you twist it. It happens.
Yeah.
all the time. It's not consistent. You have to maybe they have to come up with a consistency regulation to the turf. I don't know.
It would just be a lot of money to replace
That's
all
what it
these
is.
fields,
Money.
and that's all they care about is the money. At the
money,
end of the
money,
day.
money. We've been, that's the name of the game in life. Money. So yeah, it's obvious.
Ratings, Taylor Swift.
Speaking of money, where's your money going in terms of Super Bowl?
Tough. I'm gonna first initial thought when you say that Chiefs Lions. I'm gonna go Lions.
Wow.
Chiefs,
Wow.
Lions. I saw someone throw out something crazy and put the Vikings in that. One of my friends wanted to say Vikings. I don't believe in the Vikings, but
I agree.
do think a sleeper team that we might see this season, and I know it sounds kind of crazy, don't sleep on the Texans. Don't sleep on the Texans when they find their rhythm, and the only reason why I'm saying that is because they have dangerous weapons on an offense, and even though their defense might be lacking slightly, we are seeing it more and more that if you have an offense that can overpower a defense and you can get into a shootout, it's going to go your way.
Once Joe Mixon comes back, that running game will be very effective.
Oh,
and they actually have
absolutely.
some pieces on defense. Will Anderson,
Yeah.
Daniil Hunter, Al Shazier, the linebacker.
it's not like they
Derek
got a bunch of
Stingley.
bums out
They got
there.
some players, and they have a defensive head coach, so they're going to be fine on defense. Yes, Houston Texans, maybe dark horse, maybe
I wouldn't
not.
even say dark
I
horse.
wouldn't be
The
surprised
way
if-
that they played, they won a playoff game last year.
I wouldn't be
Let's not
surprised if they
forget
end with
about
the 1
that.
seed. I wouldn't be surprised. Another dark horse team. I know it's early. I know that he's been hurt. They've been a little inconsistent. Watch out for the Green Bay Packers because
yeah.
Jordan Love, he was throwing a couple picks in the first half, but in that second half, they have so many weapons. Jaden Reed, I think, is going to be a star, number 1 wide receiver. I'm really high on Jaden Reed. They have Dontavian Wicks, Dobbs, Christian Watson, those 2 tight ends that they drafted, Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, and then Josh Jacobs. They have so many weapons on offense. Offensive head coach, I'm really high on the Packers.
They do, and they kind of remind me of how the Texans were last year. Just coming out of nowhere. Obviously, Jordan Love showed a lot of potential last year. We didn't know if he was going to replicate it. He missed a lot of games in the beginning, but that second half of the Vikings game, he was lighting it up. Lighting it up. Personally, my pick for a Super Bowl, I think the 49ers and the 49ers are going back and they verse the Ravens. And I think the Ravens take it all. Honestly, the way they played this week, the way that they were running with Derrick Henry looks unstoppable.
When they have the lead, they're very effective.
They do. I mean, he almost put up 200 rushing yards, and that doesn't happen often anymore. It really doesn't. And Lamar Jackson, a lot of people were doubting him, saying, can he go back? Can he win a Super Bowl? I think he absolutely can. He won MVP last year for a reason. I think he leads this team. It just comes down to if they can beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
That's really all it comes down to.
To bounce off of that as well, because we're going to stick in that division there. A lot of people are putting money on the Steelers. And here's what I'm going to say about the Steelers. They had, I'm pretty sure it was like the Chargers, Broncos, let's see, I'll look at the other ones here.
Atlanta. They beat Atlanta.
They beat Atlanta. They lost. The only team that they lost to was the Colts, but they beat the Chargers, they beat the Broncos,
Atlanta,
and they beat Falcons. And not gonna lie, you're 3-1. You're at the top of the AFC North right now. I don't know that if that's really a convincing, 3-1. It's
right.
They're lying numbers.
I'm gonna ask you guys right now. Do you trust Justin Fields? Because I don't.
I don't trust Justin.
He's been better this season. He's made some nice throws, but he still makes the stupid mistakes that he's made his whole career. Sitting in the pocket too long, taking sacks, strip sacks, holding onto the ball for too long. He's still the same quarterback that we saw in Chicago.
And I feel like this is a really unfortunate situation because you have a defense that's doing everything they can.
Elite.
The only reason why they were over 500 last year is because of their defense. Every game you've seen, it's just been a defensive battle. And that we're seeing the same thing this year. It's just that offense. It's nothing special. It's really not. I mean, you have the pieces. George Pickens. You just have a lot of stars on that offense. It comes down to quarterback. I don't think Russell Wilson will do it either.
Nah, he's not going to be much better.
Nah.
I want to hit on your friend's point. The Minnesota Vikings. Yes, they have all the talent in the world. Justin Jefferson, Addison finally going off. I think Hawkinson's hurt, but they got Aaron Jones. Do we really trust Sam Darnold? He's been great so far. I'm a Jets fan. I saw him. Yes, Adam Gase. Did Adam Gase ruin Sam Darnold? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna just throw a name out there. Ryan Fitzpatrick. 5-6 games on the Jets. He had a good season on the Jets for most of his career. 5-6 games. He would look like the best quarterback in the league. 16, 17 games, he would get exposed. I think over 17 games, Sam Darnold gets exposed.
Yeah, here's what I'll say. I do think that he's definitely going to plateau a little bit, right? But what I do think I want to give to Darnold is this. He was working under a pretty brutal system before last time he was really on the field as a starter with the Jets. Mm-hmm. He seems to have the weapons he needs and a system he needs around him on the Vikings. But again, it's back to your point, Will. I don't know if he's a deep season quarterback, but I guess we'll find out, right? If there is a season for him too, coming from his personal perspective, this is his season to show, I'm not that throwaway. Right. I am a starting QB in the NFL.
They have all the they got all the weapons they need. This is the year for them.
And Brian Flores on the defensive side, what a job he's done on that defensive side. CJ Stroud was I don't even know what I was seeing over there. They were just throwing looks at him that he didn't even recognize. Brock Purdy stifled him. And then Jordan Love,
These
first
are good
half,
teams.
stifled Jordan
These are
Love. Brian
great
Flores
teams.
has done a great job on the defensive side. Yes, this is if Sam Darnold's going to perform as this season, but I've seen so many stupid turnovers from him over the years. And you saw in that second half of the Packers game. Was he turnover prone to Jets Darnold? Probably not. But he made a stupid pick in the red zone. He did. Were they up 2 scores? Yes, they were.
Yeah.
Did he fumble the ball in the fourth quarter? Yes, he did. So, I feel like over time you're going to see more and more of those Sam Darnold turnovers. The stupid strip sack where you don't see the defender coming. The stupid interception in the red zone where they force the ball into double coverage. That's going to happen more and more.
I feel like after these 4 games, he has cemented that he is going to be a starter. I'm sure there's plenty of teams looking at him now. I want this guy. I mean, you have a little bit of dilemma. You have J.J. McCarthy that you picked up. What do you do now? You have two ready to go quarterbacks, and at this point, you can really play anyone. But if it's working, you got to keep Sam Darnold.
How do you not give this guy a contract right now? I would offer him like $30 million a year right now. So,
yeah, I think they're going to go far, honestly.
All right. So, final prediction. My prediction, I'm going to throw it out there. I'm going to say Texans Super Bowl champs.
Wow. I'm going Ravens, 49ers. I'm having Ravens winning.
Detroit Lions, I think this is finally their year.
All right. Well, you heard it here first on 88.7 FM WRHU and the Hold My Helmet podcast. My name's Antonio Schoenhardt with Dylan Boyle and Will Reichling. Stay tuned.